but it does fall to the challenger to point out the differences between himself and the incumbent. So I need to say just a few minutes on that. People say, well, gosh, I thought Jeff Flake was a conservative. I really like him. You know, I thought he was too, and in some areas he is. All right, and I don't disagree with Mr. Flake across the board. For the most part, I agree with his stance on taxes and on spending. Okay, and I don't take anything away from him there. But I do have problems on certain other issues. First and foremost, with regards to illegal immigration. All right, I think most people may be aware. If you're not, he was one of the sponsors in 2007 of what they call the Strive Act. It was a comprehensive immigration reform, and it included what most people would consider to be amnesty, a slap on the wrist, pay a fine, and you know, you snuck across our borders illegally, you know, you're legal now. All right, I have a problem with that. I think a nation of laws needs to enforce its laws, and we can't just pick and choose which laws we're going to enforce and which ones we're not. All right, and of course, I don't know if we have time to go into it, but I think probably most of you are aware, I hope you are, of the tremendous cost, the tremendous economic burden that illegal immigration has imposed and continues to impose on our society. All right, so I have a problem with someone who claims to be a fiscal and economic conservative, yet takes a very liberal position on an issue such as immigration that ultimately has a tremendous economic cost to us. Okay, ultimately, socially liberal is economically liberal, and we cannot separate those two as much as we might like to. I have a brother-in-law who considers himself very enlightened and likes to say, Jeff, I'm economically conservative, but I'm socially liberal. And I just have to say, look at the history in this country of socially liberal experiments, and it doesn't take a genius to connect the dots and see how these policies have imposed tremendous economic costs and consequences on us. So do not tell me that you're socially liberal but economically conservative. I do not believe that those two positions can be reconciled. The last thing I need to say about a major difference between myself and the incumbent is with regards to global warming and carbon taxes. Okay, I've debated this with him face to face, and I know that he has bought into the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant that needs to be reduced, regulated, and taxed, and he has proposed a bill that would impose a carbon tax. Okay. Now, in fairness, he's also proposed a reduction in payroll taxes such that this measure would be revenue neutral. Now, I'm all for a reduction in payroll taxes. I think that's a great idea. I have no problem with that. But I'm not at all convinced that we would get or keep our lower payroll taxes for as long as this carbon tax was in effect. So I'm not sure that it would be or stay revenue neutral. But even giving them the benefit of the doubt, a much bigger problem for me is the fact that this bill gives legitimacy and credibility to the idea that carbon dioxide is a pollutant that needs to be reduced, regulated, and taxed, coming from an alleged conservative, no less. And that, to me, is very dangerous. That opens the door wide open for our big brother, the federal government, to come in and start telling us how long we can keep our lights on, how many miles we can drive our cars, how cool we can keep our homes and offices in the summer, or potentially even start regulating our breath. I don't know how, but they'll find a way to do that. Things that seem absurd are realistic, because things that seemed absurd to me 2 years ago are actually in law today. So nothing would surprise me anymore. And so the whole, he missed the cap and trade vote last year. And once I realized that he's imposed a carbon tax, it all started to kind of make sense to me. And I got to tell you, I find this to be an extremely dangerous idea. All right, coming from someone who's trying to get the government out of our personal lives, the last thing I want to see is for them to be able to come in and start regulating every aspect of our lives that involves energy usage. Can you imagine what a nightmare that would be? I got to tell you, any sort of carbon tax or cap and trade would make government-run healthcare look like a day at the beach, and I honestly believe that. And believe me, I'm very opposed to government-run healthcare. Make no mistake about it.